The Eurovision Song Contest is back for 2025 and with a whole host of brand new rock and alternative entries. We're going to give them all a little bit of a listen, look back on some of the biggest rock acts to ever enter the contest and make our predictions for the future, all on this edition of Rock Sound Rundown. Hi guys, welcome to this week's edition of the Rock Sound Rundown. I'm your host, James Wilson-Taylor, and yes, Eurovision season is here once again. Now, if you are unfamiliar, this is basically the biggest song contest in the entire world. Hundreds of millions of TV viewers every single year. All these countries competing with the best original song, left up to a jury vote, and of course the telephone voters at home. Fair share of rock success stories there over the last few years. Måneskin, of course, emerged onto the worldwide stage through that contest, as did the likes of Blind Channel and Bambie Thug last year. We're going to get into this year's entries in the rock and alternative space, some of those success stories, and of course who we would like to see take on this contest in the future. I'm joined this week by two of our esteemed writers, of course, Jack Rogers and Maddie Howell. Let's start, guys, with kind of Eurovision in general. We're all rock kids here. I feel like the rock element has only kind of come in the last few years in a much, much bigger way. Were you guys interested in this at all when you were kids? It's always been there on TV, but did it grab you? Jack, were you a fan as a child?
Always, yeah. My first real memory is, I think, 2008, Ukraine, which was, I can never remember their name, but you remember dressed in all silver, star on the head.
Yes.
Like, and hearing that song, which was just like, first time, again, hearing world music as well in that capacity, and just seeing something so ridiculous and weird on normal TV, and then having Terry Wogan kind of have to big it up, because it was so early in the night before he'd really got into his bottle.
This is so, for American content, I feel I'm going to have to do this a lot today, haven't I? For American viewers, Terry Wogan, legendary broadcaster, he would do hilarious commentary. It is now done by Mr. Graham Norton, who's obviously known worldwide. But yes, typically lots of sarcastic comments, all a bit of fun though. All in the sense of fun.
It was the charm.
Yeah,
it's always the charm.
But from that point, I was just like, well, this is great. You know, I can get into this, and, you know, I've never really been one for the parties that they do over here, but I like it on a personal thing, you know, like actually looking at it and seeing how it has grown into a thing which is now even more so, more established than it's ever been. Before, it was just a bit of fun that people knew about here and there, but now to the point where it's like everyone talks about it. It's such a bit, the build-up is months now, and it's taken seriously, even by the UK as well. So
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it was sort of viewed as a novelty in this country for a long time. But Maddie, I think what's been amazing in the last few years in particular is, as we say, it's grown and grown and grown, arguably the biggest it's ever been, and can genuinely make careers, particularly if you are a new band, I feel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, like, watching it as a kid, but it was like, Eurovision's on, let's chuck it on. Like, I remember one of my favourites was, I believe it was like 2007, Scooch.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone remembers that?
Flying the flag all over the world.
Absolute banger.
It gets stuck in your head so often, but then when you go back to because I'm the same with, like, Daz Simpson as well, for the UK ones, they get stuck in your head so often, then you go back and go, oh yeah, this isn't as... yeah, this is exactly how I remember it.
Was it? Yeah. Like,
but Scooch was,
very of its time.
Yeah.
Very of its time.
Sure.
Dressed as cabin crew, flying the flag all over the world.
So camp.
Well,
very,
so
very
good.
camp.
You know, like, fast food rockers walk so Scooch could run.
It's so
And
true.
you are watching Rock Sound. That's the one. But as we say, this has been the fascinating development over the last few years, is seeing more and more rock and heavy artists use this platform, which, for a start, is the smartest thing in the world. In the past, it would have been seen like, oh, this is a cool thing to do. And then people quickly clocked on, oh, how about we go and play a song in front of hundreds of millions of people on live television? I mean, we'll get into some of these success stories soon, but let's really dive into this year because it just makes so much sense to have some rock and alternative entries in there. So it's in Basel. Very exciting. I want to jump through a few of the kind of more rock and alternative ones that may have a shot of winning. So let's begin with Finland. Now, Finland, of course, a long kind of history of having rock acts at the contest. They had the Rasmus there just the other year with Jezebel, did really, really well, kind of gave their career another boost in the big, big way, kind of brought them back on the touring circuit a lot. Lordi, which we'll come on to, won the whole thing with Hard Rock Hallelujah, real impactful moment. This year they are sending Ik Kommer. Now, let's start with the obvious. Filth. Absolute filth. I mean, just absolute filth. The translation is I'm coming, and yes, that's the connotation. And there's a few filthy ones this year. It seems to be a bit of a theme, doesn't it? Discuss.
I mean, they've had to tone it down, haven't they? Like, I've seen a lot that they've had to, like, kind of have a word, be like, we appreciate the whole empowerment, but come on. Like, but it's still, like, have you seen the staging of it? Like, she's riding this giant microphone fire coming out. It's ridiculous, but it's pure Eurovision. Like, it's what's so good about it. And, like, Finland never miss.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jesus, they are so good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm rooting for her. Like, it's incredible.
And even the song, because I feel like what they've done, because of the history that they have, they know how well rock things do work, because they do have the history, but also knowing that you can't always do that, that there are other things. And this mix of kind of like, you know, there's enough pop sensibility in there for it to make sense, but also it's a very big, like, club banger at the same time. There's a lot of techno this year.
Yeah, there is a lot of techno this year. It's a big influence. I mean, this one, it's obviously, we're going to come on to some more obvious rock entries here, but I want to throw this one in because you can hear that electric cowboy in there. You can hear that kind of, and especially when that kind of big group chanting chorus comes in, it's like, I can certainly hear some of those more kind of rockier influences at play.
Well, this is how we, this is something interesting, because like electric cowboy did get put forward for Germany a few years back. Yeah. They attempted it, and unfortunately Germany is a weird one, because sometimes, and then a year later they realised they tried with Lord of the Lost for a rock entry, which didn't work out for them. So they've always been a bit here, there and everywhere. But the fact that the size of Electric Callboy now, which shows, you know, they're doing 26,000 people arenas on this upcoming tour, and it's by being themselves and silly and brash, and also utilising what is massive in their own country, which is electronic music in that way. And for Finland to see that, and, you know, again, using German language in it, it does make sense.
I think it was Pump It, wasn't it, that they submitted, I believe, and they just didn't get selected in the end.
Oh, what a song.
Oh, yeah, would have been great. Would have been absolutely phenomenal. And I did think at the time, it's like, oh, well, maybe, are they going to get pulled down maybe by the judges slightly because it's got a bit of swearing in it? But then we get to something like Serving Can't, as I pronounce it incredibly purposefully and correctly there, this year. And you see that these issues do come up, but there's ways around it. You can make it work.
Yeah. So,
yeah, exactly. A little radio edit never hurt anybody. It definitely works. Let's talk Italy. So this is very much more in the proper classic old school rock kind of sentiment. It's very 70s. It's very kind of soft rock vibes. Lucio Corsi performing that one. It's interesting with Italy because I remember when Måneskin won and we talked to them after that victory, they were very clear that rock music in itself kind of doesn't have the level of following in Italy that it maybe does around a lot of the rest of Europe. And that's why traditionally Italy had always sent more kind of pop acts or ballads and that kind of thing. They were an anomaly and obviously massively successful. But it's kind of interesting to see Italy once again go down a rock route, albeit a completely different one from Måneskin. They're clearly kind of playing on that heritage a little bit, I suppose, and that kind of, as I say, very old school sound to it, right?
Yeah, I think the best thing about that song is the riff at the end. Like, so good. I think the thing with Italy for me is the language really lends itself to that kind of style. Like, there's some languages that you just can't imagine. Like, imagine like a German song in that vein. It just doesn't work. Like, Italian is such like a beautiful, eloquent language. And I think when you put that to a classic kind of 70s balladish style song, it just works. Like, it's just something about the flow of it, something about the rhythm of it just really kind of lends itself to that. And I think that's what Italy do best, and they know that. They know that they do really well when they put out these beautiful, well-crafted, kind of flowing songs. And whether that's rock, whether that's pop, whether that's whatever, like, they just know the style that works, and yeah, it's another banger.
It's interesting because with this song, it matched with like the video that it has where, you know, it's a young boy being sent to his room and then he's talking to his posters and doing all this, and then your man comes out of a poster and plays and in Diet Kiss makeup. This is a big kind of like dreamers song. It's a song about being yourself, following what's right, and I think that even sticks in with like what Måneskin did, because obviously they started as an X Factor band, you know, and like that's a very different world, and then all of a sudden when they're on this world stage, they're being themselves. They're being, to some, provocative. When they're not, they're just like wearing this is what we've grown up on, you know. The same that like they're just expressing themselves in whatever way, and that has realised their dream. That as kind of like the benchmark for Italy to be in this place where it's like, well, if we are going to send rock things like this new song, it is going to be a bit more camp, a bit more free, and a bit more kind of like shows that if you want to do something, you can just do it.
Do you know what I find interesting about that particular style as well? Is it reminds you that, especially around a lot of Central Europe, it's such a family show.
Yeah.
And it's such like, there's so many different generations watching it. And I think even though it's a completely different song, I think that was the key for Sam Ryder in a lot of ways a couple of years back. Obviously represented the UK, came in second, biggest success we've had in that contest in God knows how many years. And I think one of the key elements there was that it was a song very much indebted to that 70s rock in particular. It was a little Pink Floyd, it was a little Queen, it was a little Elton John. He's a phenomenal performer anyway, and like, you know, got a wonderful stage presence and all this charisma and the publicity trail and all that stuff. But I think when you hit on this particular genre, this particular style, it really grabs a big sector of that at-home TV audience. And I think for that reason, this one could do very well. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of develops on that.
Yeah, there's definitely, because as you say with that generational thing, because each time, you know, rock feels like there's always a talk, you know. There's the Alex Turner speech from the Brits, you know, like that.
That rock and roll.
That rock and roll, it'll always be there. But like, even out of that context, it will, and it always does that. Like, you know, you see around the world, like artists, like the classics, like Stones. You see Metallica. You see Fleetwood Mac, that constantly, like on iTunes charts, in vinyl sales, people are still finding these classic rock sounds, and it's not just young people, it's old people remembering how what they were raised on, and it never goes away. You know, other things, other trends come and go, but like that guitar and bass and drums is always around there, and it always will be. And you know, it does feel like now it's been remembered what that can be, you know, and possible. But like, again, because it's been a few years without a rock song like finishing completely at the top, like a big one that people might go, oh yeah, I do quite like Fleetwood. I remember liking Fleetwood Mac. Yeah.
Reminding us of the classics just one more time.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely an element of that. Let's talk Lithuania next. Catharsis is the artist, and this is kind of very much more in that alternative rock style. Touch of Fontaines, touch of Inhaler, a little bit in there. It's already gone to #1 in Lithuania, I believe. So, you know, big backing from the home nation, if nothing else. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because this is actually a type of rock that we've kind of rarely seen at Eurovision in a way. It's always more very much the heavier thing, or like we say, very much indebted to that kind of classic sound. That modern alternative rock thing hasn't really been in there a huge amount. So it's kind of interesting to see someone kind of take on those sounds that, you know, like I say, with the likes of Fontaines and Inhaler, are massive commercial successes at the minute. Interesting to see how that one will go down.
Yeah, I think that's the magic of this year and the last few years, is we have got kind of the whole spectrum of rock starting to be kind of represented here. Whereas, like, back in the day, we had Lordi, who was like this ridiculous kind of almost, I guess, like joke band to a lot of people. You would have seen that and thought, that's weird. But I think now we're sort of getting to the point where we have serious rock bands, we have classic rock bands, we have all this different kind of representation of the rock sphere, which is just nice. Like, I think it's just nice to have that, rather than just being like, here's a load of ballads, here's a load of outlandish pop songs, and here's the joke rock act. Like, it's just nice to kind of be like, yeah, rock exists. Let's celebrate the whole spectrum of it, and like includes bands like those guys. Like, they kind of are that more modern take on the genre, and yeah, I think they're just kind of just a fun one.
And it just shows again the power of how powerful a song can be. You know, it goes back to, I guess, what Eurovision is about on that, you know, higher way that like music does travel, and it will always, and it can cross those borders and boundaries. And especially when it's like, well, when you hear what that take is on a different local level of what is very specific sounds. You know, you say Fontaines and Inhaler, both are Irish bands. You know,
very true. Yeah.
Both have very different upbringings, lifestyles, the influences that have come from that, the reason their music sounds that way, and the way it's grown. How does that compare when it's like an Estonia or a Lithuania or an Albania is interpreting that, which you don't get that anywhere else.
No, you don't.
And especially you don't get that because this is the only platform where someone writes a song with a specific thing in mind that they want to do. Because like it's a different thing making a career and doing it on, you know, playing in bars. But like when you're going, well, let's write like our favourite band and do it on a world stage.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to see those influences come into play. And we talk about the diversity of rock. I mean, let's also just mention Croatia here, because the track is Poison Cake. It big, like, industrial vibes, actual screams on there as well. I read as well, apparently they were going to initially do even further screams. I mean, we can definitely hear them in there, but that was very much the route they were going down. It's got that Nine Inch Nails edge. It's very, very Trent Reznor-y. It's again, as we say, really nice to see a wide variety of different rock genres get represented. And I think what's great about Eurovision as well, and we saw this with Bambie Thug last year, is the way that if you have those heavier moments and you have those screaming moments which are still rare in the contest, but something a little bit more abrasive, a little bit more dark, I want to say, it cuts through. But also, there's going to be a lot of kids there who are maybe seeing that type of music for the first time, and that's really exciting to me. Being able to take this particular sector of heavy music and put it on a world stage, that's always going to be interesting. But what do we make of this one, guys? I think it's a really interesting place this one sits in.
I definitely feel as though, you know, you can feel that Bambie Thug has opened up a whole new realm of this, and especially I think that their performance was like, I still think about it so often. I saw Bambie, I've seen Bambie twice in the past year.
Yeah.
Once at In Heaven nightclub, which is, you know, their chalk and like bread and butter.
Yeah.
But then also at Download, where they just captivated and just like in the morning completely captivated an audience which in the past would not have, you know, given them an inch.
Yeah.
I mean, they had big shoes to fill after last year's with Baby
yeah.
Lasagna. So, I mean, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this one pans out, because I personally think it's great.
Yeah.
Like, the screams are so good. I can't believe it's going to have more. Like,
It's going to be
wish it
interesting.
did,
Going to
but-
be interesting to see
Yeah.
how that one plays
It's
out.
a great song.
It's interesting as well because Croatia has won like 3 for 3, a very weird out there songs. Like, obviously, you know, 2023 didn't really pay off for them, but like this kind of anarcho punk like protest anthem, which like was akin to Gorgo Bordello,
Yeah.
you know, more than it is or anything.
Yeah.
And like maybe the public didn't like it, but like they took that risk of doing something here, and then you say Baby Lasagna last year went right to the top.
Yeah.
Probably should have won, you know.
I mean,
you know, which
it got my vote. I will say that. Definitely got
and
my vote.
doing this, like a country which trusts in its freaks and weirdos.
Yeah.
You know, like
You'd love to see it.
and like which I think is something which, you know, obviously it's happened in bits and pieces everywhere, but like Croatia, like they know that this is a place for them to thrive. And
Well, I mean, it's interesting you mention that, because Bambie Thug, again, that is Ireland's highest placing in... I mean, the past... I don't have the exact stat on the top of my head, but they weren't qualifying for the final for quite a few years now. So, yeah, they had to take a risk and do something that's completely different to anything they've ever done before, highest placing in years. These things cut through. If you take a risk, it cuts through. That's something we've definitely learned from this contest. Before we move on to kind of some of the other wider acts of the last few years, I want to mention one that didn't make it through this year, but arguably should have. Portugal, Henka with the song I Want to Destroy You. Won the public vote. As I said up top, it's always a mix between public vote and jury vote. So overall, didn't end up making it into the final for Portugal. No disrespect to the act that is going through for Portugal. All best of luck to you. But the level of public support behind this one has been phenomenal to see, particularly on social media. And again, taking that risk, a much heavier track. It's going to be interesting to see how that builds and develops even without that extra level of publicity. I feel like there's a bit of momentum building just from even trying to get in there, right?
Henka is an artist that I've worked with quite closely from the very beginning. You know, I was introduced to them and seen how their vision has been, like, from the get-go, very grandiose, very high fashion, but also the musically just like diving into so many, you know, so many different pools of what has become a rock artist in this, while also doing that. And the fact that they did get through this and like it resonated, it does show to me again, we as rock fans used to be the silent, well, not even majority, we were the silent minority. We were the silent, you know, we were the kids in the corner, you know. And again, showing that, you know, on that world stage, I will say the Portugal song, it's still a bit of a, it's a bit of a rock song.
Yeah, it's got,
you know,
got elements. It's definitely got elements.
Which is what's interesting, that it's like, well, you know, you're dipping your toes in, why don't you do a cannonball? Like, and I guess it's, you know, it's that old school approach, like things that you don't understand and things that you don't get, because again, this is a very, you know, it's a song which is very on the nose and very kind of like, you know, abrasive, lyrically as much as it is musically, that like maybe they don't like that people think it's, you know, shouting at them or doing something like that. So I get why they didn't choose to do it, but also I think the support that's off that now that the song is out,
Yeah.
and that it's what as you said, it can make someone's career. Like it's changed Henke's career instantly by having this, and that even though they're not going to be on that stage, it's going to do the world of good. Another thing is with these artists where, you know, last year Bambi wrote a song with Cassiette, you know, like...
And Sam from Orgasm, I believe, as well,
and Sam from Orgasm, like having these, you know, associations were actually in the scene. Same with Henke, has written a lot of songs with As Everything Unfolds, and, you know, like bands which are working their way up through the UK scene as well. And, you know, having that associate and knowing that it's not just someone who's writing something a caricature of rock music, that it's like these are people which are actively working in these scenes, working their way up, wanting to be a part of this. And
yeah, and they join a good club as well here because, you know, as we already mentioned, Electric Callboy, obviously they were on their own massive trajectory anyway, besides Eurovision. But even artists more recently, like Smash Into Pieces, didn't make the cut, still gave them a whole new lease of life. Skywalker, you know, we forget they were in these early rounds, and then they just get in front of this new TV audience in their home nation, and it does still... I mean, that's just how big this contest is, right? Even if you're not in those final stages, it can still really lift you up in terms of your career.
I mean, that's the thing with it getting bigger over the last few years as well. Like, I remember when I was younger, you watched the final. You didn't really pay attention to anything prior to the final. The bands who got to the final were the bands that got to the final. Those are the ones people talked about. Whereas now, people watch the whole process. Like, people are invested from day one.
All 37, innit? It's like, and knows, has opinion, makes like this.
And that's what makes it, because it means that those bands who don't make it to the final still make it, in a certain sense. Like, they still have that platform. They still have that position in the contest. And yeah, I think that's what's special about the last few years, because we have got to a point where everyone is being celebrated, not just that group who make the final.
You mentioned... I love Skywalker, and an amazing band who, you know, should be so much bigger than they are the way that it's seen is. I think the pandemic had a bit of an effect on their trajectory, but them continuing this way, having a band like that, which is genuinely a post-hardcore band, it makes me think back to, I will always remember in 2018, Hungary had a band called AWS, who had a full-on, proper post-hardcore song, breakdowns in the final, you know, like, and at that point, you know, their lead singer, Uz, if I'm getting that right, he unfortunately died of leukemia in the around the pandemic, but it was having someone there which had this, you know, was singing about their pain and all these things they were going through over things which we're familiar with, you know, we know what breakdowns sound like, but like on this thing surrounded by pop songs, having people taking those risks and going, yeah, we are going to be this on this stage. 2018 feels like years, like decades ago, in comparison to how it's approached now. The fact that, you know, I don't remember it doing that well, but like the effect that it had and the effect that those words had on people has lingered for those who were in the know. But now the fact that you have these, you know, these songs which are making people massive off the back of it, because it's just like a given that there are going to be these things in there rather than the anomalies, and that, you know, that's only good for all of us.
100%. Let's talk a little bit more then about that kind of impact and how it's fed out. I've got a kind of list here of some of the most streamed Eurovision rock songs ever, but before we get to that, just even in a kind of lower sense, I think of a band like Joker Out, who I spoke to when went to Liverpool for the semi-final the other year. Really interesting to see how they just got, again, largely through TikTok, I gotta say, this really great young following who have now allowed them to do full UK tours and kind of build up this bigger dedicated fan base there. Baby Lasagna, we of course mentioned. You know where we're going to see them this summer? 2000 Trees. How about that?
Oh,
imagine that.
Yeah.
Yep, they are on the lineup at 2000 Trees.
Like,
I didn't see that.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't
So
that amazing?
good.
Paris, Coheed, Taking Back Sunday, Baby Lasagna. Isn't that great?
Oh, that's mega.
Absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, and again, we'll go down so well with that crowd.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can see it already. It's just going to make all the sense in the world. But how lovely to see them get that opportunity. Mentioned Lord of the Lost earlier. Didn't work out for them. Didn't go the way they planned in Liverpool. But again, playing to that many millions of people, main stage download, or you know, like it's in positions that they perhaps wouldn't have been otherwise. Again, I know we keep repeating this point, but not winning isn't, like, that's not the end with this. Like, if you have that association, it really, really grows. Slam Dunk Festival is just around the corner, and you still have time to pick up your exclusive Rock Sound mini magazine featuring cover stars Electric Callboy, Neck Deep, Newfound Glory, and A Day to Remember. They all come with these limited edition world exclusive t-shirts and are only available at shop.rocksound.tv. Let's get into like some of the biggest ones ever then, because Lordi, we keep circling around here. Hard Rock Hallelujah obviously was kind of pre-streaming age, but that's got 67 million streams on Spotify. Now, they keep coming back as well. They keep coming back and performing in anniversary shows. I remember seeing them there.
They have 11 albums.
Yeah, I don't think... arena tours in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't think we can underestimate the impact of that act, particularly when you look at a lot of kind of more massed metal stars later on and all that stuff. Like, that is a early moment when you're a kid to see that on TV for the first time. But what an incredible career to just keep running on. And like I say, headline arena tours in the UK in like 2024.
Yeah.
That's the biggest, longest running rock act that Eurovision's ever produced, I would say.
Big time. I mean, I remember Lordi happening. I would have been 9. And I was the most gullible 9-year-old imaginable. So I went into school, that would have been the next week, and was talking about it to my friends because we were really cool and watch Eurovision.
Yes.
And they told me that they weren't masks. That's just what Finnish people wear. And I fully believed this. So I then spent probably the next 2 or 3 years believing that people from Finland...
The next 2 or 3 years?
Oh yeah, I was extremely gullible. I remember like my dad putting Lord of the Rings on, seeing the orcs.
They just filmed this in Finland?
Yeah, just Finnish. There's just some Finnish people there.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and then it was only when I watched an episode of... I remember this so vividly. I watched an episode of Viva La Bam, the Jackass spin-off show with Bam Margera, and at the end of it, they went to a festival in Finland to see him play. And they went backstage to hang out with him, and I remember seeing Ville Valo's face and being like, well, he can't be Finnish. And
why is he lying?
Yeah, I was like, they're not Finnish, are they? And I remember saying to my mum, and she was like, what the hell are you on about? I just had this thing, and it was all Lordi's fault.
That is the most, early 2000s story I've ever heard. For so many... The Viva La Bam reference.
Yeah.
But also just the fact that it was of a time where you couldn't simply, pick out your phone and Google whether you're being...
So I saw them for that one moment on telly, and that was all I saw of them for the next 4 years.
Did you think that's how they all dressed all the time as well?
Yeah.
It was in all
I thought that was their skin, James. Oh. I thought that was just them. I didn't realise it was costumes, masks, anything. I was like, that's a creature from Finland.
Absolutely hysterical.
We'll say there are a few better people for you to realise that Finnish people aren't like that than Ville Valo.
World's most handsome man.
Seeing his beautiful little face, I was like, it's all right.
Oh, thank God.
They're not all monsters. It's
Top
fine.
5 most handsome rock stars in the world. That'll convince you right there. Let's mention Sam Ryder, Spaceman, 69 million streams, which, considering it's only been out for a couple of years, is pretty incredible. What I love about Sam, I mean, one of the nicest guys out there for a start, but this is a guy who came up through metalcore bands.
Yeah.
I remember chatting to him, his first gig he ever went to see was Sum 41 at Wembley Arena, and that made him want to be a rock star. I mean, this guy, what an unbelievable voice, what an unbelievable talent. And I've really enjoyed seeing him finally get this well-deserved success, because he is an undeniably incredibly talented rock frontman. But again, what a special moment that was for the UK to see the impact that song and that performance had for us.
Yeah, and again, I think from the UK, like, each year, it doesn't matter about the song. It's not even self-deprecation, because there's like a laugh. It's like people are actively angry that we could finish with 0 points. And like it has been that for ages, and it wasn't taken seriously. But then the minute that was, and some people don't even remember. They go, "We haven't done well for years." It's like we finished second with one of the best songs of the current era. Like, open your eyes to like what is possible. When, again, I don't think Sam was even a risk, because like he's been a part of this industry for ages on both sides of in our world, outside of it, and just is an amazing spokesperson for what it is to live a dream as well, because you can see that he was professional, but like he was just loving every minute. Like, and the fact that those points kept on coming in, he was just like, I guess this is it. Like, and now he's on he soundtracks adverts for Morrison's and Tesco.
National treasure now.
He's
National treasure.
He's a Nash treasure.
It's worth mentioning as well that, as we said earlier, I think one of the key things with Sam was that it really channeled that classic rock thing, which is one of our best musical exports in general, rock or otherwise, right? It's what a lot of people around the world think of. What's interesting about this year's UK entry, What the Hell Just Happened, it's not a rock song by any means, but it does channel that same kind of time period, I think. Touch the Panic of the Discos. I don't think we can call it rock as a song, but it's definitely got that little theatrical element and the changing tempos and all that stuff, those little Queen-esque swells in it. I wonder how it's going to perform because, again, I think you tap into that era that everyone around the world does very much associate with the UK. Feels like you might be onto something there, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think with our entries, we really have to bank on that because that is like such an integral part of British culture, not only to us, but what people know us for.
Yeah.
And I think when we come to our entries, that's the stuff we need to really kind of capitalise on because, I mean, it's just great.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's really easy to be like, oh, we need to like reinvent the wheel, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes that's the good stuff. And I think you can find new ways to kind of bring that back around, but I think playing on that is always going to be magic because that is just so important to our culture.
And just having a big UK rock is about that big vocal as well.
Yeah.
And again, like if you have someone who can hold those notes, that's the thing that's associated. The chorus of Spaceman, that note which Sam hits consistently.
Yeah.
And the way that these girls hit, like, I've seen it live 3 or 4 times in different places. Like they did it, off the cuff on a show that they were promoting. And it's just like having that talent just there in the back and can just pick it up and do it is what we appreciate here as well. It could be someone who, like, from someone on a street busking. That's like British culture so much more than anything, and that's where Ed Sheeran's come from that world and done that. And just when we see talent, we love it, and we'll support it, and for that to be associated with things which are quintessential of Britain makes it even better.
It's going to be interesting to see where it lands. Like I say, I think it's definitely tapping into that thing we do very, very well. Let's mention Blind Channel. Dark Side is 79 million Spotify streams. Again, from kind of recent years, obviously was in the same year as Måneskin. Finished very high, finished very well. What an amazing run that they have had. Going on to signing with Century Media, to having, a couple of amazing albums come out recently, Rock Sound Cover Stars a couple of times, main stage of Download, living their dreams really there. And again, it was a very nice route in for heavier music because their heroes are the likes of Linkin Park. And one of the things that Linkin Park do better than anyone else in the world is bringing in heavy music with some of the most catchy hooks you could possibly imagine. And I think Blind Channel are very, very good at that as well. Obviously been a bit of a lineup change recently. We know that. Joel's obviously moving on to other things. I'm very excited to see that when they do come back, though, where this could go next, because if they decide to really kind of hit the ground running again, I know they're on a bit of a hiatus at the minute, it's there for the taking. What a great live act and what a great setup they have in terms of, like I say, heavy, but just with those really poppy hooks all over it, right?
And it's that fact again, it is that bridge over of being a Eurovision band, but then also registering with people outside of that.
You can see that they are kids of our scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic of it. Like we were saying, like, it's just so nice to look at someone up on a stage like that and see that they have grown up wanting that they have grown up very much of that era, very much in that culture, and they're living their absolute dream. Like, every second they are up on that stage, whether that's like the Eurovision stage, whether that's the stages they've been playing around the world since, their kids living a dream.
Yeah,
and
they
that's,
really are.
that's the special
Well,
stuff.
it's about playing honest. For many, this could be, like, Eurovision can be the peak.
Yeah.
But, like, they keep on finding new peaks to have,
Exactly.
or choosing, or not choosing to settle on what has been
Yeah.
already. And that's where, that hunger can't be forced, it can't be bought. It comes from, like, going, okay, so we've done this, what's next? Or who can we touch next? Or who can we do here?
Yeah.
Where can we play? How far can we go? And that's in which, when you raise in this scene, you have to scrape and scratch, and work for it, and that, like, you never, until, like, you run out of steam, you can, when you reach the end, you go, well, I'm glad that we went full pelt the whole time,
use it as a platform onto something bigger and better, and they absolutely have. And, you know, best of luck to them in the future. It's going to be interesting to see what they do next. Lastly, we've got to, of course, mention Måneskin, shall we? Have a guess. How many streams on Spotify do you reckon City of Money's got? How many? Go on, have a rough guess.
I'm going to go 250 million.
Interesting.
I'm thinking 180 million.
535 million streams on
that
that
it?
song. Just, is that all?
So-
Is that all? Come on, guys, pull your finger out. I think there's a couple of things with that. I think, obviously, they are so slick. They are just a phenomenal live act as well. That performance was so well done. I remember speaking to them at the time again and saying, you know, how was it actually putting together that TV performance? Because obviously it's such a completely different element from when you're doing your regular live show. And the way it was shot, the camera following Damiano around the stage and like really kind of giving you that close-up look, finishing with him lying spread out on the stage looking up and all that stuff. It was impactful, it was clever. And it's also, God, I mean, even not in the English language, just to be sat there being like, this is the catchiest thing ever. And I think that was the key thing when you really saw that it was going to go far, far, far beyond Eurovision. I remember that first London show after they won over at Islington Academy.
Yeah.
And seeing people sing along at the top of their lungs, English native speakers, to all the old Italian songs. Like, people had picked up the album and they were singing them all top of their lungs. That is a rare thing to see even in a city like London. So, I mean, just so well deserved, and what a lovely thing to see how far that success has gone. Easily got to be, I think, the most certainly of recent years in terms of how far that. I mean, they broke America, for God's sake. We don't see that from Eurovision normally, do we?
It's crazy. I mean, I think the thing with Måneskin is they really tap into that kind of Eurovision fashion, performance, like this beautiful kind of artistry, which I think often rock gets forgotten about with that. People kind of think that rock bands are stand on the stage, play an instrument, go home. Like, rock on. Yeah. Or we have silly masks and silly costumes, or we just finish. But, I mean, I think the thing that we forget is that rock does have this very beautiful history, and there's so many, like, if we look at, like, Bowie, if we look at Queen, like, there is this very kind of, like, beautiful, very kind of artistic thing, and that's what they tap into. And like, the songs are bloody brilliant, but watching them on stage is like a full art show. Like, it's just beautiful to look at. And I think that's something that's special because it can sort of appeal to people even if you don't understand the language, even if you don't speak anything of Italian. You can look at that and see the whole performance and think, that's impressive. That's something special. That's spectacular.
I think each time that I've seen Maneskin as well, I do like their English language songs, but when they really let rip on their native tongue songs, they are faster, they are harder, they are more passionate than anything else that they put out there. And it's funny, you know, when you do see, I'm glad that you know, the Eurovision song has as many as it does, because, you know, their other biggest thing is like a cover of Begging, and I think like it's a shame that people know them for that rather than like these amazing compositions that they make. And
it was interesting to see people dive immediately onto "I Want to Be Your Slave" as well, which obviously was like the next obvious English. Oh, it's a great tune. They made very clear as well, like the amount of UK artists they really took influence on that song in particular, which is always nice to see. And again, seeing them get co-signed by, I mean, Tom Morello's on their album. You know, I mean, how mad's that to come off a contest like Eurovision and then just get the nod from all these places and then doing all the festivals, playing. I think Palais Royale did finally get to play their show with them. I think that, I remember speaking to the boys and they were like, "We need to play a show with that band."
Oh yeah, that was like the times that we updated. It was just like, are they reading the DMs?
Please, I loved it. It's such an obvious cosign. It makes all the sense in the world. Very, very cool.
I do just think as well, because again, what Maddie said, that like the look of these, because Eurovision is about those looks as much as anything, and the performances. And we'll say it, Måneskin, they're a good looking band.
Oh yeah,
good looking bunch of people.
They're a good looking bunch of people, but like sometimes it's like you have that there and the songs don't hold up.
Yeah.
Like on the other end, you know, the performance in there, but the song is amazing. To reach on both sides, and then because it was in their confidence as well, like they knew that they looked amazing, and continue to look amazing. Like, you know, there's reasons that past this they've done, you know, Vogue shoots. There's like
Yeah,
they've got
very
covers
true.
in their own rights. Most of each member's like they know they're beautiful and they know their music's beautiful as well. And that confidence coming through helps so much because then it makes people fall in love with that. You know,
Yeah.
so often in rock, that confidence is scolded.
Yeah,
you know,
very
like,
true. Yeah,
you know-
that's interesting, actually, isn't it? Yeah. But I like a bit of the touch of the Youngblood about it as well.
Yeah.
Like, that level of confidence.
Yeah,
that
someone
just works.
who, in being themselves, you know, on with Youngblood, like, has been, you know, told to quiet down and not be them do this, and then that's shaped where their career's gone.
Very
Yeah.
true.
In a lot of ways, but Maneskin, like, because they'd, well, again, coming from that X Factor world, where you listen to the songs from when they were on there, they were a pop band.
Yeah.
You know, but that, you can tell that wasn't their choice.
No,
you know,
no,
like,
no.
it was around there. So when that's released and you can be who you want to be and not have to listen to someone else telling you that you're doing something right or wrong, like, it reaps so many more rewards.
Yeah, 100%. No, that impact is so clear to see. Long may it continue.
Rock Sound 7 of 30 is back. You know the drill. 30 questions. Our guests pick 7 completely at random, and that's what forms their mystery interview. You can check out a new episode right now featuring Youngblood over on the Rock Sound YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
I want to get thoughts on the future here. So, if the UK were to send a rock act for Eurovision next year, who do we think would make a great impact? Maddie, I'll come to you first. Who would you back as a Eurovision act for the UK from the rock world?
So you mentioned Youngblood.
Oh, yeah.
I would, like, after Lovesick Lullaby, I just think there's something about that, like, a real nod to British culture, to British music, that celebration of everything that's come before him. I just think something like that would really work. And, like, yeah, he has that confidence, he has that swagger, that real, like, rock and roll spirit, but also the punk edginess. Like, there's all these things that people see as British music, British culture.
Yeah.
I think it would work. I'd just love to see him take on a platform like that as well, because I think he would just absolutely own it. Like, I just think he's such a dude. He's such a good guy, and he's such, like, just a real character. And I just love to see him kind of take on that stage, have that platform. I mean, he's bloody massive anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, especially on this new album that he's just announced, of course, Idols, that's coming out, he's very much channeling that classic rock sound, which, as we said, is prime UK Eurovision entry. It's what made Sam Ryder so successful. I'm sure he could definitely bring something like that if he chose to in the future. And he's got that theatrical background to him, which we all love. I could definitely see him pulling off a great performance there. Jack, how about yourself? A rock act, please, that you think would make a great UK Eurovision entry.
Don Broco.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Because not even from throughout the whole career, they have been in on the joke and know it. And again, having this, what Eurovision is, which is some acts, especially in other countries where it's like, it's quite interesting seeing a country's humour come out and it not really work in a lot of ways. I think, you know, it sometimes pays off, sometimes people are like, this is too weird for me. What Broco have done is consistently write massive songs, which, again, just, you know, we could think back to Technology as an album, the singles off that, like, I think Everybody would be an amazing Eurovision song.
Yes, it would.
Especially,
So
and
good.
even within that, because they create characters, they create, you know, stories, they create these worlds, you know, they've done it, you know, each time with each record, and while also just, one, looking good, two, but making it serious as well. You know, they're not a band which they do these silly things, but it's about actual feelings and actual important stuff. You know, there's a lot of, so, like, you know, like, having that on that stage would be, and again, festival headliners, you know, did 2000 Trees last year, you know, there's no reason why they shouldn't be incredibly high up on, you know, Slam Dunk in years to come.
Oh, good.
You know, would
Main
work
stage
there.
download this year.
Main stage downloads, you know, all these things, like a good representative of what it is to be British and having fun, but also caring about your craft.
Yeah.
And again, you can just see on a stage, you know, again, on when they did, you know, an arena run, where it's like they had Papa Roach supporting them.
Yeah.
Like
That's a night
they've gone above and beyond, like, the people that, like, their idols in the past.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I don't think there's many people which could do the silliness, because I think sometimes as well, like when the UK has done silly, as we've mentioned with Scooch and that, it doesn't pay off. And it doesn't age well either. Whereas like, you know, Thug Workout is 14 years old now.
Yeah.
And it still makes me like, it's the most press ups I've ever done. like one Ali Pally where it's just like, you know, I'll do 50 here.
Yeah.
Like, but that's a song which was, you know, written as a joke.
Yeah,
like way
yeah.
back then. But like, there's a timelessness in this scene to that for whatever reason, and for the people that like it. So, you know, why wouldn't you indulge in that a bit more?
The thing about Rob Damiani is fun, as
Yeah.
we well know,
Yeah.
as they famously said.
If you want to have fun with Rob Damiani, come to a show and we'll have a party.
It's very true. I'm picturing a sea of those masks they gave out at Slam Dunk of Rob's face, just in the audience of some Eurovision arena. I think would make sense.
I saw so many of those in the urinals.
That year
as well. Where it's
It's
just
a
like,
risky take.
It's
a risky take.
it's risky promo, but yeah.
Risky promo, that's true. I am going to mention another kind of contemporaries of Broco, I suppose, in many ways. And Shikari. So I said when Satellites came out, I remember literally saying that song would win Eurovision for a number of reasons, because it is big soaring chorus, big electro back into it, obviously. I maintain I think it's the best song they've ever written. And obviously got the story behind it is, you know, this story Rao was saying he was talking to a gay friend of his and about the difficulties that he faces in public, not feeling like he can hold his partner's hand, and how kind of sad it is, and feeling like drifting apart and you just want to be together. Obviously those kind of themes are going to resonate with a lot of the artists and the audience that take part in Eurovision every single year. But also another connection, when they were, I think it was the Wembley gig, wasn't it? Sam Ryder came out and did it with them, didn't he? He came out and performed Satellites with Shikari, so yet another kind of Eurovision connection there. They have a big following in a lot of parts of Europe. I think they do that kind of mix, as we said before, of heavy and catchy very well, as we know. You know, that's not new information when it comes to Shikari. But if we're going to take a risk, if we're going to throw something that is maybe even further than anything that UK's pushed in terms of alternative sounds, like it just makes all the sense in the world to me, really. I think there's definitely a connection there that could be formed.
I think something that links all three of us as well is these are #1 album artists.
God, yeah.
And I think people forget that again, it's people like, again, rock is in the corner for a lot of people and not thought of it, but like consistently these are chart topping things that are bought a lot. You know, Rao himself has recently just come off tour with War of the Worlds, you know, playing in that to so many other audiences. He's not just the kid that people used to see in High Wycombe, you know, like doing high kicks and you know, doing whatever. Like, these are figures which are recognised. You know, the fan base around Shikari and the culture is, you know, it's unlike anything else really in this scene, and it continues to grow and continues to get bigger. That it's often forgotten. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit in this corner of how many people do care about these things as well, because it is just when you're up against the behemoths of pop music, you do feel like, you know, oh, it's just our silly little bands, but it's like these are like arena artists. These are like people that are, you know, captivating people and are also so deep into their careers as well.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, Shikari have been around for 20 years. You know, Broco have been around for 15, 16. You know, Youngblood's been doing his thing for, you know, almost, we're talking almost like, you know, coming up to a decade in that. These aren't new people. These are like, you know, this is the wealth that we have in this corner.
I think this is the other argument that I think always comes up every year, particularly when it's a place like the UK where we don't do that fan voted thing for the entry over here at the minute anyway. It's very much a selected artist. I guess it can still be reviewed as a risk if you're a well-established artist. You know, we look at Ollie Alexander, obviously incredible, talented pop performer. It didn't really go the way I think he would have wanted. So it maybe that's why people are reluctant if they're well established. I feel like maybe in the rock space in particular, though, it's like you kind of got nothing to lose there, really. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You find a new audience there, you're gonna go back to your existing fan base and keep doing what you're doing anyway at a high level. I don't think it's any skin off anyone's nose necessarily. So, fingers crossed. It'd be nice to see if we can get some rock acts in there in the future. We will see how that develops again post Sam Ryder world that we're living in. Before we wrap up, guys, let's do this very quickly, shall we? Who's going to win this year? Who's going to win the Eurovision Song Contest 2025? What are we thinking?
Well, I know that mine isn't going to, the one which I want to, and it goes back
to answer my question.
Exactly. But well, it's like, because I know that it's like, that there are the obvious choices, and I think the things which it could go completely different. I think I've seen Sweden's doing very well, and because it's a fun song and all this, but I love Belgium. And again, it's me going back to when you go through all of these, like Eurodance is back, you know, Confidence Man have brought it in a big way for a lot of people, of opening up this like early 2000s thing. And I just think, having, in the past there have been songs where, you know, techno has taken over and it's got near the top. This one feels like a proper, like, if they are going to do a dance one, a dance number get near the top, this should be the one. Like, I think it's called Strobe Lights, I believe, and yeah, it's ready made for, you know, Kit Kat Club.
Nice.
So
that's the vibe. It's a vibe we like. Maddie, who is winning this year?
See, I don't think they're going to win again. It's the same vibe. But my winner...
Guys, that's one question.
Sorry. See, I'm a sucker for stupidity. So... Australia with
Milkshake Man. Another bit of filth. Here we go.
Is great. It's so fun. Good. And like, just something about the, like, when I say tasty, you say yum yum or whatever the hell it is. Like, it has like that Panic, like, shotgun wedding vibe.
Wow, there's a comparison.
Like,
that is
what
a
I'm
big
feeling.
comparison,
and it's just
Maddie.
so insane. And like, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he like grew up like playing guitar, learned guitar through Green Day songs, like, and I just think there's like such a lovely little link to our scene there, even though it is a filthy, ridiculous
it's
song.
Absolutely, it's disgusting.
It's so good.
It is like it's just like...
They're like chocolate, vanilla, lactose free. Oh, banging. So good.
Moving swiftly along. I am gonna throw a bat in for Sweden. I think it's at this point for me it's a done deal. But I mean, obviously, anything can happen on the night, guys. But it's got that novelty factor, as you say, and it's, you know, shouting the word sauna in the middle of a song is always a bit of fun, but also just relentlessly catchy. It's been stuck in my head ever since I first heard it.
I love, my favourite thing for Eurovision is the amount of accordions that are used throughout everything.
Yes.
And especially when it's in countries which aren't, because for some, there are some countries where it's so ingrained in what they do that it's like, I'm on holiday. It's proper holiday tunes. But for Sweden doing it, I'm just like, I never thought of sunbathing in Stockholm. Like,
it's going to do wonders for the Swedish Tourist Board now. There you go.
And I saw people say it's going to be, you know, it's going to be played on every single fishing trip that Swedes do forever.
That's
forevermore. But then doing that compared to, for them doing it, when they have done very serious songs for so long, that's why it works again. Like, I mean, considering, I mean, Sweden just love doing it because each year they're just like, if we keep on winning, we'll get ABBA.
They're one away from matching the all-time record.
That's what they're doing.
I think, or beating it perhaps, actually. I need to look that up. But they're on the cusp of being the biggest ever to won it the most times, which is crazy. It's them versus Ireland at this point.
Yeah, which it's crazy thinking that, like, Ireland were the tops in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's incredible how they've managed to catch up. We will see how it develops. Anyway, Eurovision Song Contest coming very, very soon. And that's about it for this edition of the Rock Sound Rundown. Thanks as ever to Jack and Maddie for joining me. Make sure you hit subscribe here on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back again with a new episode very, very soon. In the meantime, I've been James Wilson Taylor. We will see you soon.